I'm Tye Sheridan here with RedEye. We're talking about the film Joe. It comes out on April 11th, so go check it out.
You won an Academy Award for playing an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You, in Joe, at one point, your character is drunk. Did Nick or David give you any advice on how to play drunk?
No, I'd never played drunk before, but I knew that he had, played that character in Living Las Vegas where he was an alcoholic, and I was like, man, I should be taking notes from this guy. He probably knows what he's doing. And I noticed that he would get out of the car in between takes and he would spin around and make himself dizzy. And so I would do that too. And I guess it worked out for us.
In real life, you like hunting, fishing, come from Texas. How much of an advantage do you feel like that's been in terms of getting some of the parts that you've played so far?
A total advantage because, I feel like I live like a normal life outside of this, and this is just something that I do on the side. So it's fun to incorporate like my knowledge and experience into my work, whereas other kids like this is the industry that they grew up in and they don't have anything to pull from. So I feel like I'm totally fortunate to have something to pull out of my past experience and put into my work.
What's been the moment so far that you've had to do in a movie that you felt like you were the most prepared for because of things you had already done?
I did a movie called Mud where I was riding dirt bikes and driving boats, and this is something that I had done, just growing up and being in the outdoors, so I felt very comfortable doing that.
I think, you've made such an incredible impression on people in just the few roles that they've seen from you. Some interesting similarities in those films and those roles. I'm sure you have a lot of versatility that people haven't seen yet. How are you at, say, accents?
I'm good. I think I'm good. I'm not trying to be conceited, but I feel like if I can hear something, I can usually mimic that quite easily. So when I just did a movie in Boston, I had to do a slight Boston accent. I mean, it wasn't too strong because I feel like I didn't want it to be distracting to the audience, but it was slight, and what I did was I had a voice coach read all my lines in the film, and then before I had a scene, I would just play the scene, and I would listen to the way she said the words, and then I would take and I was hearing the accent all day, every day for
right.
However long we were shooting, like 7 or 8 weeks, and so I kind of familiarized myself with the accent.
Can you give me a sense of how that sounded? That Boston accent?
Boston accent? Sure. What do you want me to say? Why don't you ask me a question?
So, what do you think about the Sox this year?
The Sox, yeah, they're great. I was just at the park the other day, and I saw David Ortiz. He had 2 bombs. So, he's really smoking the ball.
How about a British accent?
I'm not going to do British. Because British is tough. I feel like you can either do like a really bad British accent or a really good one. There's kind of like no in between, but I haven't, and that's something I haven't practiced too much, is a British accent. I should.
I'm sure you've learned so much during all the work that you've done in the past few years. What's something you feel like you know how to do now or that you're better at than when you were, say, during Tree of Life?
And talking to people on set, because there's like a certain language that people use, like you hear this term on the day on a film set, and I always ask myself, I was like, what does that mean? Like people would say, well, are you going to have lights there on the day? And I was like, what is that? Like on the day? And what it means is like when it comes time to actually shoot the scene or do whatever you're talking about, that's what it means. And it's like just I think terminology like that you hear on a film set is a lot of stuff that I've learned in the past few years.
Sure. I want to play a little game with some of the big co-stars that you've had so far. We'll start with Brad Pitt. Tell me the first movie you remember seeing him in.
I don't know. I didn't when I filmed Tree of Life, I wasn't like a big movie watcher, and I didn't see a lot of movies, and I didn't even know who Brad Pitt was. And
so you had no initial impression of him coming in.
And it was like I wasn't intimidated either, which is good, because I feel like if I would have been a fan of his and seen all of his movies, and it might have been a little intimidating and overwhelming for me.
How about your first impression when you met him?
I remember the first time I met him. He was wearing I think they were doing a camera test, and he was wearing like this army suit, like 1940s army suit. And me and another kid that was in the trio, like we had some rope, and we were trying to rope a mailbox. And he walks over to us and introduces himself, and he's swinging the rope and he's trying to rope the mailbox with us. So that was my first impression of him.
So how would you rank your intimidation level from 1 to 10 when you met him then?
I wouldn't say there was any intimidation.
0?
Yeah. It was like I'm coming into something new, but, let's go for it.
Do you recall a piece of advice that he gave you at any point?
I don't. Because I was, again, I was so young and not even realizing what I was, actually doing, like how fortunate I was to be working with, some of the people that I was working with then.
How would you characterize your relationship on set?
How would I characterize my relationship with Brad Pitt?
Mm-hmm.
I remember him as being, very cool and somewhat like a mentor. And again, he was watching out for us on set, so.
Did he have a nickname for you, or did you have a nickname for him?
Yeah, I think there was I don't know if he initially came up with a nickname, but I didn't remember this when we were actually shooting, but had someone, confront me about it just here recently. I think they used to call me the torpedo. So, and what their idea was, like, they would just send me into a scene when something wasn't working, and just to kind of, I think, get like a playful energy. Give like a playful energy to the scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have an impression of Brad Pitt?
Do I have an impression?
Like an impersonation of him?
No, I don't.
Come on, your Nicolas Cage is so good.
I can do Nicolas Cage, but there's just some people that I just can't do.
Why do you feel like you can't do Pitt?
Well, it's something in your voice. Like, there's certain voices that I can do, and there's certain voices that I can't.
Okay, how about for Matthew McConaughey? What was the first movie you remember seeing him in?
I remember seeing him in, I think it was some of his romantic comedies.
Do you remember which?
Actually, I saw him in Dazed and Confused. I saw him Fool's Gold, Ghost of a Girlfriend's Past. I remember seeing him in. That was probably the first one that I saw.
So what was your initial impression of him before having met him?
I think it was a little bit more intimidating. But it was like, this should be fun. Me and this guy are both from Texas, so it should be fun.
Then what was your first impression when you did meet him and your first memory of that?
I remember when I first met him, I remember he was like super cool. And he told me, he was like, hey man, I'm Matthew, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun on this movie.
Intimidation level 1 to 10?
I would say like a 3.
How about any advice from him?
I feel like, as a younger actor, it's my job to take notes. It's not his job to mentor me. So it's always smart to take notes from seasoned and veteran actors like himself.
How would you characterize that relationship on set?
I would say that it was more of like a friendship, like a buddy type relationship.
How's your Matthew McConaughey impression?
It's not good.
Come on.
I'll give it a go. All right. That's all I got.
That's pretty good.
How's yours?
Not very good.
Let's hear it.
All right.
That was better than mine.
See, I feel like you have the advantage, though. Coming from Texas, you got that kind of twang. Yeah, the Chicago accent doesn't help with that at all. So how about for Nicolas Cage? What was the first movie you remember seeing him in?
I remember seeing him in... Well, of course, I saw him in the Ghost Riders when I was younger, but I remember watching... Gosh, what was the movie he did? I'm blanking on the name right now. It was about Alcatraz and...
The Rock?
Was it The Rock? I think it was The Rock. I remember watching The Rock when I was really young with my dad, and I think that was the first movie I had ever seen.
So what was your impression of him at that time, do you think?
Wow, this guy's crazy. No, not really. I love Nick, and he's a super nice guy, and he's a great friend.
So then what was your first impression when you met him?
When I first met him, I had a great first impression because when I first met him, he introduced himself. He stuck out his hand and he grabbed my hand firmly and said, "And my name's Nick." And of course, everyone knows who Nicolas Cage is, but I felt like it was, very humbling to see him, introduce himself as Nick.
As opposed to just expecting, you know who I am, I don't need to make...
Exactly.
How is your intimidation level 1 to 10 in that case, then?
I wouldn't say there's, maybe a little bit, but not too much.
How was that relationship on set compared to those other guys?
It was good. We had fun. We both like classic rock and a lot of the same music.
I heard your Nicolas Cage impression earlier, but can you give me another one, like an example?
Yeah, sure. This is my Nicolas Cage impression. It's not very good, but I try.
At any point during those films or any of the ones you've done since, have you had a moment where you've kind of looked around and said, I can't believe this is happening?
Just here lately that's happened. But it was like I said, I felt like, I was living a normal life, and then this was just something that I did on the side that, I felt very fortunate to do, and I thought was pretty cool, but never took in the realization of wow, this is a huge opportunity, and not a lot of people get to do this.
Well, in Joe, your character asked Cage's character for a job. What's the worst job you ever had when you were younger?
I didn't have too much of a job, but growing up in Texas, one of my best friends his dad was in the hay baling business, and I was never strong enough to throw the bales up onto the trailer, but I would drive the truck and help unload the bales, so that was probably the worst.
How old were you when you were driving the truck?
Maybe 13. But we weren't driving on a road. We would just drive, through a field and pick up the bales of hay.
What are a couple things that you like that you feel like most or all teenagers like, and a couple things that you feel like most teenagers like that you don't?
I don't like video games too much. I'm not into video games or technology at all, really. I mean, I have an iPhone and a computer, but it's I get on it, check my email, and if somebody sends me a text message, I'll send a text message back. And I do also have a Twitter and Instagram, but I don't really check it that much, which I feel like is a good thing. And video games, I like sport games, but I've never been into shooting people, and I just didn't. I've never thought it was that fun. It didn't appeal to me.
What about things that you feel like most teenagers like that you do too?
I like girls. Yeah. Yeah.
How about favorite movie?
I wouldn't say I have a favorite. Yeah, I do have a favorite. Despicable Me.
Really?
It's probably not my favorite, but I really like it.
Hey!
I enjoy
nothing to be ashamed about.
No, it's a great animation.
Album you've listened to the most recently?
That's a good question. I listen to... There's this band called the Avett Brothers, and they're really cool.
Yeah.
I really love some of their stuff. Their latest album is really good. Yeah, but I really enjoy that band. And also, there's this band called Iron Wine.
Mm-hmm.
You know them?
Yeah.
They're really good. I enjoy them.
So you like artists with beards?
Yeah. Well, beards and long hair. Yeah.
How about favorite place in the world?
I enjoy Texas, and I think I hope I always live there and plan to keep that my roots.
Somewhere you've never been that you want to go?
New York. Yeah, I've been to the airport there, but I really want to go to New York, and I'm going there. We're actually going there in a couple of days for the premiere.
Your movie Grass Stains involves a prank. What's the worst prank you've ever pulled or had pulled on you? Brad Pitt in particular is a legend in that regard. Did he pull anything on you?
No. I would say I'm a prankster. But my pranks are really bad. Sometimes I think things are funny, and I just keep dragging them out, and they would just keep becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and then when I say I'm kidding, it's that's not funny.
It's gone on so long.
Yeah, it's gone on so long, and then it's just even my jokes aren't funny.
Give me an example of what you're thinking when you say that.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine. Let's see, what did I do? Oh, told a friend of mine that she didn't tell me happy birthday. It was my birthday, and she was like, "Wait, no, your birthday is in November." I was like, "No, it was today, but it's okay. You know, you didn't have to tell me happy birthday. I know you would have if you would have known." And she got so upset, and then I told her I was just kidding, and she got really mad at me. Which was, I mean, it was a bad prank. But I thought it was funny at the time, and it wasn't.